Hi everyone and welcome to the Marseille View. I'm Stefan, and for today's video I thought what we would do is have a little bit of a chat about Arkadiusz Milik, what's going on with him, why is he playing so badly, and what's his future at Marseille. Now before we do that, just to say, please if you can, like the video, subscribe to the channel and follow our podcast, which you can get on all your major podcast apps, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Link will be in the description. So yeah, please do check us out if you've just stumbled across this channel. Now, thinking about the video, so today, as I said, I wanted to talk about Milik, and this is kind of in the aftermath of the Europa Conference League elimination to Feyenoord, which obviously absolutely gutted about, kind of come to terms with it now, still feel the same way I did about it on the night. I'm not going to break down the game or what happened in this video because we are going to record a podcast on Monday night after the Lorient game, so we'll do a kind of in-depth analysis of the Feyenoord game as well. Then that'll be out on Tuesday. But at that game, kind of one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about and what went wrong in that match is the performance of a number of players, but Arkadiusz Milik is one that's been called out for some criticism. So I was just thinking, what's going on with him, you know? So if you just sort of reel it back to the beginning, Milik signed for Marseille in the January window back in 2021 when Andre Villas-Boas was the coach, and his signing was kind of filling a gap, plugging a hole that had been left since the previous summer. They tried to bring in a striker and it failed in the summer of 2020. We were left with Darius Benedetto, who wasn't prolific by any means but a decent player, and Valère Germain, who certainly wasn't prolific. Some would say he was not a decent player. He was a hard worker and, you know, he had certain qualities. But yeah, we needed a prolific striker, a goal scorer, and of a higher calibre. So Milik came in and initially did very well in that period. So he came in on loan from Napoli. I guess his future was changed by the change of coach. So Jorge Sampaoli came in, I think, in March 2021, and Sampaoli, his game plan, although maybe not suited to Milik, even initially, Milik had done pretty well in that team. So in that sort of run to the end of the season, I think he's still scoring a number of goals, and sort of the system that we were playing was still kind of suiting him kind of well. I think that, so I don't think we really saw the problems that we were going to experience in the following season at that stage. Now, I hate to be one of those people that says I told you so, but if you are following the podcast closely, you maybe remember that at the time when we brought him in and when Sampaoli came in, I sort of had reservations about Milik. I said that, you know, I thought he was a good player, but I thought that him and Sampaoli weren't compatible. I didn't think that Milik was the right kind of striker for the kind of game that Sampaoli would be playing. And although that wasn't really apparent last season, it was certainly has been clear this season, and that's probably why he's fallen out of favour. So, you know, I think I said at the time in particular that I thought that, and this is before we'd really seen Sampaoli's OM, it was just at the very beginning, but I thought that he might want a player that is more mobile, presses better, drops back, is able to be more involved in the build-up play, is aggressive, you know, and a player that, rather than a natural, normal centre forward, a player that can sort of drift out wide or drift or deep. So kind of, and I think I'd mentioned Darwin Núñez because a player that I was, you know, following closely, and he was the player that we nearly signed in that summer of 2020. We had a deal in place to sign him. with Almeria, and in the last minute he rejected us for Benfica. So he's a player that I felt would probably work very well with someone like Sampaoli. But yeah, so Milik came in, initially did well. I think he scored 9 goals in 15 games in that sort of half season he played, so very good. That's in all competitions. 10 goals in 16 games and 9 and 15 in the league. And then this season, he's had injuries, fallen out of the team. He's come in, he hasn't really fitted the system. The system's changed, we're not playing the same way. We've seen him go through periods where he's just not scored any goals. Questions about whether or not he can play alongside Dimitri Payet. It seems like the two of them aren't really compatible. And even though, and there's a question here, is that with Payet out injured for the rest of the season, though Milik's injured right now, is this the moment for Milik to step in and show that he can fill the void left by Dimitri Payet? I don't know. I think that what we will see is potentially, I think this player's going to leave. Now I'm just going to, just looking at his stats, so this season he scored 7 goals in 22 games in the league, which is decent, but it's not the kind of, the top class striker that you would expect for OM. He's got, according to Wikipedia, I hope this is correct, it's in 20 goals in 36 games. That's in all competitions, that seems quite high for me. I'm going to double check that on Transfer Market, because that cannot be. Well, I know he scored a lot of goals in the Cup, but I still didn't think he'd scored 20 goals this season. So let's see what Arkadiusz Milik is doing. But yeah, so as I was saying, he sort of kind of drifted out in the team, and then Sampaoli's tinkered a lot with the squad. So there's games where Milik's come in, he's played, scored goals, particularly in the Cup, and then been out of the team a few days later in the league, and he's criticised this himself. So he's not really had a good consistent run of play, and I think you can probably leap to his defence there. But it's clear that he isn't, as I said, what I speculated last season, he isn't the right player for the system that we play. He just doesn't press enough, he doesn't run enough, he just sort of sits and waits, and he's just not energetic, not dynamic enough. I mean, you could make an argument, and this is probably what I think actually, is that if him and the coach weren't compatible, they should have brought in a striker last summer that enables Sampaoli to play the way that he wants to play. If not, then we shouldn't have brought Sampaoli in as a coach. We should have brought in a coach. If we were going to see Milik as the number 9 of this team, of this project, then we should have brought in a coach that would be able to play with that kind of centre forward. So I don't really blame Milik for that. I think that it's bad management, bad construction from Longoria, really, more than anything. You could argue maybe bad management from Sampaoli for not adapting to the players that he's got, and that's fair enough. I wouldn't knock you for saying that either. I think that's a pretty valid point. But yeah, so yeah, he has scored 20 goals in 36 games in a competition. Looks pretty good, but that's not really what. I don't think the stats really reflect the reality, and most fans are pretty disappointed with him. It does look like he's going to be leaving potentially in the summer if Sampaoli stays. I don't think Milik's going to be happy coming in and out of the team. He's already said he's not. He is actually on loan from Napoli, so this is where it gets kind of interesting. So Milik is on loan from Napoli until the end of June this year, but we've got an obligation to buy him. I don't know the exact details of that, but I'm assuming that he's played enough games that we have to exercise that obligation. So it looks like he's going to be a permanent OM player in the summer. But what next? If Sampaoli stays, I don't think we're going to keep Milik. It looks to me like we're probably going to sell him. And the problem is now, with him not having as solid a season as he probably should have, or what we expected, is he going to be able to bring in much cash if we do sell him? I don't know. I don't know if any big club that could afford to pay for a player like Milik would take the gamble on him right now. I know there's clubs that are desperate, so many big clubs that are desperate for centre forwards, but I don't know. I think if he'd had a more consistent season, it would be a lot easier to sell him. But yeah, maybe one of the big Italian clubs might come in for him, like Milan or something, looking for a striker. There's been rumours that we would be looking to swap him with Giovanni Simeone, who I think is playing with Cagliari now. He's definitely got that kind of grinta, that sort of aggression that might suit Sampaoli's system. I'm not really sure I would want to trade Milik for him. I think he's a player that's had a good season this year, had a good season a few years ago at Fiorentina, but in between, I don't think he's actually a top class player. Well, I don't think he's consistently a top class player, so I think he's a bit of a gamble. I've seen rumours of other strikers like Anthony Martial, which seems pretty unrealistic financially, and also he's more like the Bakambu Dieng kind of role, so I can't really see him being a replacement for Milik. In Nesri from Sevilla, I don't know enough about him, but yeah, so I think there's rumours about strikers. I think we're probably going to trade Milik in the summer. He definitely hasn't been the star striker that I think some fans believed he was going to be when he first joined us, and it probably is the right time to cash in him if we're keeping with the coach that we've got. I don't know what the alternatives are though, because we don't have a lot of money, and we're likely to have to sell players in the summer. So yeah, Simeone, I think it's very probable. I could see it being some other name that we haven't seen linked to us yet. Someone like, I don't know, who's at a favour at a big club is a fairly decent name. Perhaps someone like Paco Alcacer, someone like that Longoria will know from his time in Spain. I can see that kind of calibre of player coming in. I don't think we'll probably get a name like Milik again this summer. I think we will struggle. And I don't know if there's any really big young talents that we could snap up that we can develop into becoming a better player. I just don't know what the options are, but I hope that we get it right, and especially if we're in the Champions League next season. We need a number 9, a forward who's going to deliver. But anyway, that's enough from me. I want to know what your thoughts are, so tell me, what do you think? Do you think Milik should stay at OM? And if not, who do you think we should bring in to replace him? And as I said before I go, guys, just please like the video, subscribe, and check out the podcast. We'll have a new episode on Tuesday morning coming out. So thanks, and Allez.